almost the end. But yeah, that's amazing. I'm very, very proud of it. So this is what you really came for, okay? What's actually happening? This is the part that Apple really, really cared about. This is the ecosystem for creators, right? So you've got radio stations, and then the rise of creators, and then the rise of indie. Wait. Cool. So radio stations, the rise of podcast creators and platforms, and then the rise of indie creators as well. So indie creators being just anyone in their bedroom recording, putting it up. And then the second one being the platform, which is something like what we're doing. We are not the only ones that are doing this in South Africa or across the continent or across the world. But the first one, mainly just radios. Radio stations dominate the space mainly because they have the access to resources and can distribute much faster as well, right? So we want to change that, by the way. And this is how we publish. So I'm going to give you all our numbers as well. This is how we actually get our numbers, right? So our biggest platform to actually listen from is SoundCloud. That's where we get our numbers the most, but we've actually now removed SoundCloud as the host. Main reason, no podcast platform like Spotify or Apple will actually take you seriously if you're using SoundCloud because it's a music streaming platform. And yeah, so we've now replaced SoundCloud with Iono, which is a South African product that actually helps you publish podcasts in a much better way, faster way. It also has a way more data as well, right? So analytics is super powerful for podcasters. For example, we realized that one of our podcasts, people weren't listening past the 20-minute mark. So the podcast was 1 hour long, but people wouldn't listen after 20 minutes. Literally, there was a drop-off. So what do? You cut it to 20 minutes, or even 15, right? So stuff like that starts to inform the way you create and the way you put out your content as well. So SoundCloud, then Spotify, then Apple, then Google, and then other, okay? So the reason why there's other, as soon as you add your podcast to Apple Podcasts, what it does is it syndicates across all podcast apps. So there's stuff like, podcast something cast. There's a whole bunch of different podcast apps. And they all syndicate from Apple. So you don't actually engage with those platforms, but your podcast is there already. So this is how we prioritize them as well. So we'll put out Spotify first, then Apple, then Google. SoundCloud is now dropped off, which means that we now need to adjust and adapt to make sure that we can migrate our audiences from SoundCloud to Iono, which I'm still cool. So these are the platforms as they exist right now as the dominant ones, right? Cliff Central basically owns the space in terms of brands and partnerships and creating content for other people. So they'll do a podcast with literally Standard Bank, Absa, and Nedbank at the same time. And the brands don't care because there's no one else doing this, so where are they going to go? Everyone wants to make a podcast, but if no one can make it for them, they're going to go to the guy that's selling it, right? And also, he can charge whatever he wants, right? Iono being the platform that you can publish on, you can publish free at the beginning. You can choose whether you want to stick with that or not, right? And then African Podcast, which is mainly a library as well.